For more on this now, let's bring in Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. Senator, good to see you. We have a bulletin from Reuters that apparently President Biden spoke this morning with Egyptian President al-Sisi, asking al-Sisi to discuss a potential de-escalation of the violence with Hamas officials in Gaza. Israel says that it will at some point seek a de-escalation, but it's not ready to go there just yet. Is President Biden caving into pressure from progressives on his left to get this done now?
Yes, John. Joe Biden has spent the week caving in to the Bernie Sanders and the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wing of the party, Democrats who are in effect sympathizing with Hamas, a terrorist organization. Israel should conduct the military operation that it needs to destroy Hamas's war machine. They can have a ceasefire on their terms when they're prepared. What I would recommend is they destroy every single Hamas missile and rocket, and that will cease the fire coming out of Gaza into Israeli cities.
New arguments there on Capitol Hill, building Democratic opposition to a $735 million arms sale package to Israel from the United States. Bernie Sanders says that in your chamber in the Senate, he's going to introduce a resolution to put that on hold, or at the very least question it. It's also expected that House Democrats will bring administration officials up to the Hill maybe sometime today to get them to explain why we should be selling these military arms to Israel. Why should we be selling these JDAMs, as they're known, to Israel, Senator?
It's astonishing, John, that the Democrats are now proposing to cut off military sales to Israel when they are in the middle of a war against a U.S. designated terrorist organization that have launched thousands of missiles and rockets at Israel. I say let's vote. The question is Israel versus Hamas. Bernie Sanders apparently wants to side with Hamas. Most of the Democratic, or the energy in the Democratic Party, appears to be that as well. So let's have a vote on the Senate floor and on the House floor and see who stands with Israel and who stands with Hamas.
Wanted to ask you just real quick before we move on to our next topic, this attack at a Los Angeles restaurant in recent days. Do you believe that in any way could be a result of growing anti-Israeli rhetoric on the left?
Yeah, I just saw the video of that attack, John. It's extremely alarming, and I hope it's investigated and all the perpetrators are brought to justice swiftly. And I think we need to remember that any time you see this kind of condemnation of the Jewish state around the world, it has often led to anti-Semitic attacks. It's happened more often in Europe than it has in the United States, but it should never happen here.
All right, let's move on to topic number 2, and that's the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Yesterday, we learned that the Biden administration is going to waive sanctions against the CEO of the company that's building Nord Stream. That led the Wall Street Journal in an editorial today to write, quote, restrictions on a Putin crony will be waived in the name of U.S. national interests. This is the kind of move that prompted the media to assert that Donald Trump must be a Russian agent. The pipeline will provide cheap energy but deepen European dependence on Russian gas. This is geopolitical malpractice. How in any way, Senator, is this a good idea?
Well, it's a terrible idea, John. This pipeline is Vladimir Putin's #1 foreign policy objective. Joe Biden, though, is once again appeasing and coddling Vladimir Putin, just like he's doing with Iran and increasingly doing with Hamas as well. He is projecting the same sense of weakness that he has for 50 years in public life. We have the means to stop this pipeline by imposing sanctions on, yes, Vladimir Putin's cronies and the company that is building it. That was a law that was passed with bipartisan support in the Senate. But Joe Biden apparently doesn't want to offend the delicate sensibilities in Germany that wants to get more hooked on Russian gas. At the same time, though, he is coddling Vladimir Putin, and he's throwing our allies in Eastern Europe under the bus.
A number of Republican colleagues of yours in the House on the Intelligence Committee issued a report that was released yesterday on the possible emanation of COVID-19 from the Wuhan lab. Here's what they said in part in that report. Significant circumstantial evidence raises serious concerns that the COVID-19 outbreak may have been a leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. By contrast, little circumstantial evidence has emerged to support the People Republic of China's claim that COVID-19 was a natural occurrence, having jumped from some other species to human. Do you believe this needs to be further investigated? Should there be congressional hearings on this?
Yes, John, there should be. I've been saying from the very beginning, last February, that the most likely explanation for this pandemic is a leak from the laboratories in Wuhan. Now, I was condemned as a conspiracy theorist without any evidence, but from the very beginning, all the evidence points at those labs. None of the evidence points to that food market that was a cover story for the Chinese Communist Party. And I'm glad to see that so many scientists are coming around to this. I'm glad to see that even The blue media is finally admitting that, yes, it doesn't take much common sense to say that, gosh, this global pandemic started in a city that's larger than New York, not in some remote village that has bat caves outside of it, just a few blocks down the street from a laboratory that was conducting, yes, research into bat-based coronaviruses. What a coincidence that is. That's why we need more investigation. That's why the Chinese Communist Party needs to come clean.
Even the Centers for Disease Control Director Rochelle Walensky is now suggesting that maybe it emanating from the laboratory is a possible route of its entry into the population. This report also suggests that that laboratory was involved in gain-of-function research and had a military component to it. Certainly, Dr. Anthony Fauci has rejected the idea that the U.S. was funding any gain-of-function research. Is there anything that you can add to that?
Well, Dr. Fauci is playing word games here. The NIH and his agency inside NIH specifically gave money to an American organization, which then turned around and gave hundreds of thousands of American tax dollars to those labs. And those labs were indeed conducting research that any reasonable scientist would call gain of function. Dr. Fauci and the NIH needs to level with the American people about that, and we need to get to the bottom of exactly why they approved those grants, why they apparently didn't oversee them effectively enough, and why they may have violated a direct order from the Obama White House at the time not to fund such research.
Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, good to catch up with you today. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.